Okay, this song has two parts. The first part is A-O-O-A. The second part is on the top of your sheet in English. Yeah. A-O, O-A, A-O, O-A. Lo isa goya goya lo yilbedu od milchama lo isa goya goya lo yilbedu od milchama
Okay, so I'm gonna address a little bit why. Sorry. Okay. I'm gonna address why we're here at the Jewish Alliance. We're here to express our anger and sadness about the IDF's ongoing violence against Palestinian protesters in Gaza, which has so far taken 24 Palestinian lives. What does the Jewish Alliance have to do with this ongoing violence? We're here because it's time that we as young American Jews demand accountability from our institutions. On Friday, March 30th, the people of Gaza marched in commemoration of Land Day, a day in which tribute is paid to the 1967 protests of land expropriation that resulted in the Israeli army killing 10 Palestinians and injuring approximately 100 more. These protests have instead resulted in the death of 24 Palestinian protesters and over 1,400 injuries. Like most mainstream American Jewish institutions, the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island has remained silent in response to the killings in Gaza, silent when their voice is most needed to stand against violence committed in our names and in the name of our faith. As protesters in Gaza were killed for demanding the right to return to their homeland, the Jewish Alliance of Rhode Island is supporting Birthright trips that send American Jews to that same land to receive a whitewashed image of Israel that contains no education on the realities of the occupation. We ask, who is Birthright and whose right of return?
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah. Woo!
The Israeli occupation of Gaza and the West Bank is a violent reality for the Palestinian people who have lived under military rule as a stateless people for over 50 years. People who once lived throughout Palestine have become displaced in their own home, and their continued systematic oppression by the Israeli government is intolerable. We call for an immediate end to the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, the destruction of the border walls, and the recognition of the right of return for Palestinian refugees and their descendants, who were forced from their homes in the creation of the Zionist state. We wish to see a Palestine in which indigenous claims are respected, upheld, and absolutely supported. The tragedies of last Friday mark no deviation from the standardized violence of the occupation. Meanwhile, the Jewish Alliance runs programs through its Israel Shaliach Embassy program that have the explicit mission of promoting support for the Israeli government and our Jewish communities in Rhode Island. Despite this, the Alliance claims to remain neutral on the topic of Israel, but we know none of this is neutral. A refusal to acknowledge the occupation and its violent realities is and of itself a political statement. We are tired of Jewish institutions treating support for the occupation like a Jewish value. We are offering these institutions, the Jewish Alliance of Rhode Island included, a chance. Stand up for justice in Palestine or become irrelevant to a generation of progressive American Jews.
Today we ask the Jewish Alliance of Rhode Island to take this opportunity to become a leader of a new movement in U.S. institutional Judaism. A movement in which the violence of the occupation is condemned and our communities are given the resources necessary to understand the roles that they have played in its perpetuation. A movement in which we recognize our power and positionality as Jews living in the United States. A movement in which we become honest and self-critical of the direct role Jewish institutions in the United States have played in contributing to the disenfranchisement, dispossession, and decimation of an entire group of people. A process that we as Jews should know much better than to be complicit in. A movement in which our self-preservation no longer comes at the expense of the annihilation of others. We ask that the Jewish Alliance make the first steps toward liberation for all and not only for some. We say enough, Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu.
Hey, whoa, is this working? Okay, so we all now have this letter, and we're gonna read it paragraph by paragraph. If someone can hand me a copy of it, I can read the first paragraph. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And then I'm going to pass it off to other folks. Dear Adam Greenman, Mitzi Buerkle and Jonna Brennan, those are all people who work here at the Jewish Alliance. On Friday night, Jews across... What? I have this backwards. Oh, great. Oh, yeah. Oh, power. On Friday night, Jews across Rhode Island and around the world gathered for the first night of Passover. Many of us sat around Seder tables, asking questions about liberation and reflecting on what our history can teach us about justice for the oppressed. Do you want to read the next paragraph?
But while we discussed our exodus from Mitzrayim, which translates to the narrow place, Gaza became an even narrower place for Palestinian protesters and their families. At that same time, Israeli Defense Forces were firing openly on Palestinian protesters in Gaza, resulting in the death of 24 people so far and injuring over 1,000 more. March 30th, 2018 was the single deadliest day of the occupation since 2014. But this violence is not new. In fact, Friday's demonstration commemorated Land Day, a protest that took place on March 30th, 1976, in response to Israel's confiscation of 2,000 hectares of Palestinian land and resulted in the murder of 6 unarmed Palestinian citizens of Israel by the Israeli Defense Forces. The violence of the occupation is not new, just as the stories of oppression we tell each year on Passover are not new. But as young American Jews, along with others concerned with justice for Palestine, we are newly appalled and called to action by both. As we tell and retell the story of our liberation, we stand firm in our belief that the Jewish people were not let out of bondage so that we could inflict the same violence upon others.
Now, our generation says, Dayenu, enough. Enough to the violence of occupation, enough to American Jewish complicity, and enough to the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island's implicit support of these crimes. In light of these recent events and in the spirit of Passover, we demand that the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island release a statement condemning the actions of the Israeli government and military in Gaza, and reconstruct its planned Rhode Island Goes to Israel trip this coming fall to properly educate participants about the realities of the occupation.
Woo!
In addition, we demand that the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island divest from Birthright and cease any support for their programs, and that the Alliance discontinue or heavily modify its Shaliach Israel emissary program to accurately reflect the violence of the occupation. This Passover, we stand on the side of liberation, and we ask you to stand with us.
Woo!
You're singing.
All right, we're going to sing some more. This is the next song on the sheets.
What's it called?
It's called Eish Tamid.
If anybody doesn't have a sheet, I have some.
Eish Tamid tukar al hamizbeach lo tifeh, lo tifeh. Eish Tamid tukar al hamizbeach lo tifeh, lo tifeh. Which side are you on? 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 Eish Tamid tukar al hamizbeach lo tifeh, lo tifeh. Eish Tamid tukar al hamizbeach lo tifeh, lo tifeh. Which side are you on? Which side